Hello. Today we're going to learn how to distinguish a histogram from a bar graph, why we use histograms, and how to make one. First, the difference between a bar graph and a histogram is that, although they are similar, a histogram only represents one set of numerical data instead of multiple sets in a bar graph. A histogram also has intervals on the horizontal axis instead of single values, and the vertical axis in a histogram is how many times that interval occurs in the data. To calculate intervals, you'll need to subtract the highest number that you have in your value from the lowest numbers, and divide that number by the number of bars that you wish to create. For the data below, we see that the smallest number is 114 and the largest number is 178. Excuse me, the number should be 122 and the largest number is 178. So we should use, because there are 56 in there and we would like to create 6 bars, our interval should be about 10, and we should start from about 120 and go to about 179. For our labels on our histogram, the intervals go on the x-axis and the frequency will go on the y-axis. Let's see if we can create one. First, to create an appropriate intervals. Well, first we're going to create a frequency table for our values. With the data set in your page that you have, you'll see that we have several numbers that are within these intervals. So again, we're going to start with 120, and we're going to go through in each section. We're going to go intervals of between 120 to 129. 130 to 139 and so forth. What we want to do is we want to count how many times our values hit between each of these intervals, including 120 and 129, including the beginning and ending. If we add them up, we just tally them around, we see that there are 7 that fall in our first category, 8 in our second interval, 7 and 7 in our next two, 9 in our next one, and only 4 in our last interval. Each one of these intervals here all have the same number of values in between them. There are still 10 values in each of these. This is the number of times that that value hits within those range from our data set. So again, our smallest number is 122 and our largest number is 178, which gives us that range of 56. So, to set up our histogram, we see that since the largest number is 9 in between 160 and 169, we can set up our range and our y values for our frequency to be no more than 10. Each of our values are touching because they are all connecting, because 129 ends at 130 and this one starts at 130 to 139. Sometimes you'll see in a histogram that instead of just the ending values, they actually state that it goes between 120 and 129. I think that's a better situation. So here we see that the first one is 7, the next one is 8, the next one is 7, 7, 9, and 179. When we create the histogram, we see that the bars, unlike any other bar graphs, they actually do touch. Now sometimes they may not always touch. If there's a break in the data, or if there may not be any, say in this case, if there was no values in our data that went from 150 to 159, then this value, this bar, and this bar would not touch. I hope this helps you out. I hope you enjoy figuring out how to create your own histogram and why it's important.